We get to see an email.
Are we live?
No, it's downloading. Preparing to live stream the meeting. Setting up the meeting to custom streaming the.
I'm not hitting the gavel again until the meeting is over. Sorry, I do that once. I do it twice.
All right. And then I gotta do one more thing here. Record.
Okay, good afternoon. Call the meeting to order of the City of Pleasant Hills Economic Development Committee special meeting for Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. I believe all committee members are present. Yes, they are as well. So let us, so we got the roll call taken care of. Call to order taken care of. God, we're already public comments, seeing none. We're already 4/5 of the way through this agenda. So, well, not quite, actually 3/5 of the way, 60%. So we'll go with the first discussion item today, which I believe will be with Mr. Zach Seal on the city's economic development updates.
Okay, 1 minute, please.
Okay, Mr. Seal will speak for 1 minute, apparently. All right.
Okay. Let's see here.
Sounds great.
Okay, alrighty. So I will be reporting out on a few economic development updates, primarily some recent and upcoming special events. And then I'll also talk about some recent businesses that have not shut down, but have relocated within the city and then created some vacant tenant spaces, i.e. opportunities for new tenants. Shoot, a little slow here. Okay, there we go. So as all of you know, the Off the Grid season started last month. And one of the things that Off the Grid did is they changed their day from Wednesdays to Thursdays. And I just wanted to report that according to Off the Grid, and also according to my eyeball test, the change in date does not seem to have diminished participation at all. In fact, it appears to me that there might even be an uptick in weekly attendance. So that is a good sign. The other thing I wanted to point out is that Off the Grid is really emphasizing this year, having community partners come to their event on a weekly basis. So they're signing up and scheduling and developing a calendar for different groups to come and table at Off the Grid, and then also provide family fun activities. So that's the photo there on the bottom right, some kind of soccer game there. And so on May 1st, they actually partnered with Valley View Middle School, and that was a fundraiser. And so $1 for every sale at the truck went to Valley View Middle School, so 100% of what was fundraised. And then as you can see, they have other schools that are lined up later this month, going into next month, as well as the Pleasant Hill Community Foundation. And they have a whole host of different community groups that they're going to be reaching out to. The city worked with them to develop a list and also to share with them different contacts. And then it's kind of up to Off the Grid to go from there, reach out and try and secure some different organizations to come and attend their events. So they did say to me that on May 1st, they had 40 to 50% higher attendance than they normally would without partnering with an organization, or in this case, a school. And then because it was a fundraiser, they're sort of doing good while doing well. It's good for Off the Grid, it's good for the food trucks, and it's obviously good for the schools because they're fundraising and also just doing outreach to everybody who shows up at Off the Grid.
Question? Or do you save it for the end?
Oh, you're the chair, so that's up to you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Oh, that's myself, that question. Do we have an idea yet of what kind of money one of these community partners will garner from such an evening?
I believe it's about $800 is what they were able to raise from Valley View Middle School.
Okay,
so
great.
In theory, they'll be able to raise between $800 and $1,000 each time they do one of these fundraisers for one of the schools.
Mhm.
It may differ based on the size of
Sure.
the school, how many students, how many parents, but
And it's certainly incumbent upon the school to help out with this as well. So, okay,
Exactly.
great. Thank you. Any other questions real quick? Okay, keep going.
And as I know some of you are well aware because you were out there, Pleasant Hill successfully launched the Pleasant Hill Night Market on May 2nd. And the vision for this concept, this idea, really came out of a May 2024 Economic Development Committee meeting when we were actually discussing a downtown farmers market. And some of the committee members said, hey, that sounds great, but we also have a lot of other great established popular special events already occurring in downtown. Wouldn't it be great if we had some type of event like a farmer's market or a different kind of market on the north side of the city to kind of supplement what we already have going on in downtown? And then there was also some discussion as well about a night market at around that same time on the Diversity Commission. So once that feedback happened here at the Economic Development Committee meeting, we started reaching out to really 3 different property owners. Floor and Decor is one property owner. The 6 tenant spaces that are part of the Diablo Valley Shopping Center are actually a second property owner. And then, of course, the Recreation and Park District. They own Chilpancingo Park. And one of the property owners actually knew an operator that organizes these types of events. So we started doing outreach to him. DVC was also brought in because the operator wanted to know if they could use some of DVC's parking lots for the event. And so they were kind of brought in. And so collectively, I would say that one way to coin what happened would be a PPC, a public-private community project, is what this sort of ended up becoming. There were over 1,200 attendees on the inaugural night. So it's a pretty good number. The operator actually was counting the attendees both as they were arriving at the night market and leaving. They were 2 different people, and then they kind of compared notes to get sort of an accurate number of the number of people showing up. So the operator, Sunny is his name. He is also going to be working on a website for the night market so that, similar to Off the Grid, anybody who's interested in going to a night market, because there's going to be 12 of them over the course of the year, can go onto the website and, in theory, look and see who all of the vendors are going to be, before they go there, so they can kind of plan out where they want to eat and what kind of merchandise they might want to buy and things like that. And the performances would conceivably also be on the website as well.
That meet his expectations, 1,200, I mean, I have no idea. The number would be
Everybody who had any association with this event was blown away by the attendance.
way exceeded.
It was
Yeah.
good.
I was just wondering if he had a goal of what he hoped to see at least.
Yeah, if he did, he didn't share a particular number, but he was definitely very happy with 1,200 people. And there were a lot of vendors. There were 60 vendors, a mix of retail merchandise and food and drink. And so there's some photos of some of the retail vendors that were there. The idea, as we were kind of looking at how to shape the night market, was to create something that was not overly duplicative of Off the Grid. So Off the Grid is very much a food truck event. And so there aren't, as you noticed, there weren't really any food trucks at the Pleasant Hill Night Market. There was food, but they were kind of more served under canopies. So you had food vendors, and then obviously a big emphasis on local merchants and retail as well. And then there were some dance performances that really kind of highlighted community, highlighted diversity. I do know that, Andre, I think one of your kids was perhaps one of the performers.
Right there.
Oh, there we
Two
go.
of them.
Nice. Yep. So these are,
strategic photo placement.
yeah, it
Good
was
job.
honestly a coincidence. I was
I'm
hoping in the
sure
back
it
of my
was.
head,
I'm
maybe I was
sure
going to
it
get
was.
lucky there. So yeah, so those are 2 of the 5 performers, and really the program for the night market initially was really about the retail vendors and the food vendors, but the performances obviously were very successful. They brought a lot of people, created a lot of excitement. So performances may become a somewhat regular part, perhaps, of some of the night markets. I just wanted to mention that we're still working on a farmer's market. The tentative date we think might be in the neighborhood of May 2026. The operator is looking at presenting to the Economic Development Committee around August, and then getting approval from the City Council, which is required by our municipal code for any farmer's market in downtown. So just, we'll kind of wait and see and knock on wood and hope that that comes to fruition. And then lastly, so I've shown you this table before. It includes some of the big boxes in the city that are vacant, some other noticeable buildings that have been vacant for a while. These are a little bit newer, more recent. And And what's interesting is that a lot of the vacant spaces that you may see now are actually businesses that have stayed in Pleasant Hill, but they moved to a different location. So Arrive Nutrition relocated across the street. Kellymore Paints, they either completely went out of business or closed, many of their stores. And so those are opportunities for new businesses to come in. Deb's Flowers moved into a great location. If anyone hasn't visited them, a little bit further north on Contra Costa Boulevard, it's a really great space. Minuteman Press, they also moved down the street. And so that's a great, corner spot. The liquor store that you actually see at 2001 Contra Costa Boulevard that was located there, they've actually signed a lease to move into the Deb's Flower Minuteman Press space. They still need ABC clearance, but a lease has been signed. So we'll see where that goes. Also next to the liquor store, Three Brothers from China, they have not actually closed. They are going into a much smaller footprint. They're staying at the same location at 2001 Contra Costa, and they're really going to focus on takeout. But that frees up a not only a tenant space, but a tenant space that was formerly used as a restaurant, which means it has a hood, which means that there's a good chance that they may attract another restaurant, which is difficult to do in a regular tenant space that doesn't already have a hood. Row House, they closed, I don't know exactly when, maybe a few months ago. That's a great location on Crescent Drive. And so staff is working with Vestar as well as the other brokers representing the other spaces to try and help them fill those spaces with tenants that the community would really like to see in Pleasant Hill. And then Namake Street Food, they're on the corner of Boyd and Contra Costa Boulevard. That's part of the downtown Pleasant Hill Shopping Center. So that's managed by Vestar. They also just closed down a couple of weeks ago.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'll open it up for questions on this particular side here in a second. With the row house, and I think I know the answer to Namake Food, but with row house, I mean, any reasons why given for them that didn't make it? Any insight? No.
Not particularly.
I mean, that Namake Food is just a tough location for any. I don't know how many restaurants have been there in the last. I mean, so I think that's at least.
It's got good visibility. It's right there at the intersection, but it's kind of hard to get to. The circulation is
I think
weird.
that's the fourth restaurant in probably 15 years at least. Okay, so I was just curious because that row house. I mean, it's a good location, obviously better than Nama. And I was just wondering if it was a management issue or just people don't like to row in Pleasant Hill. I don't know.
They go to Lake Merritt if they want to.
Right, exactly. Anyway, any other questions on this slide?
The Namake, is that the one that's right by the movie theater? I guess you turn
Onto Boyd.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
That's now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's the yin and yang. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the
That's
last
the point.
one.
Okay, great. Oh, that's your last slide.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's my last one. Keeping it short today.
Do we have Ken? Should we switch 2 and 3 just so that Ken doesn't?
Oh, we can. There's actually,
Or is it really
item
big?
2 is really short. There's no lie. I just want to make sure that.
Oh, okay. Then go ahead. Well, then we'll go ahead and go. Just stick with item 2. Then we'll keep it.
Get that. And Ken, in your interest, I'll keep it short. So KTVU reached out to Chris Tipton, president of the July 4th Commission, which is independent from the city, but they obviously do a great event every year. And KTVU, like last year, they went to the city of Alameda and did their live show called Zip Trips. They're going to do the same thing here at Pleasant Hill this year, which is exciting. It's huge. So we are waiting for some outreach from KTVU relative to what they envision, how they want to approach this. And we are ready and willing and able to help Chris and the team with the July 4th Commission to prep for, expos, little vignettes during the live streaming of the parade, live broadcast. They're going to cut away to, hey, and while we're here, you might want to know about XYZ business or about this community group or about this really interesting 100-year-old resident of Pleasant Hill who, whatever. So they'll find those human interest stories and we are going to help. I've already had a meeting this week with Zach and with Jeff Gillette to talk through getting prepared and ready for and thinking through some ideas that we have. But we're waiting for KTVU to reach out formally, and then we'll get things going. Obviously, July 4th is two months away, but there a lot goes into it before that, as I'm sure, Andre, you can attest, and Dave as well. Absolutely. So that said, just want to let the Economic Development Committee know And we may reach out to the chamber, et cetera, for recommendations on businesses or others to highlight, or if there are other stories out there in the community. So just want to bring it to your attention. That's really the end of it. There's not a lot to share at this point, but I thought it was interesting. Again, it's a great opportunity for us to showcase the city and the businesses and the community.
Ethan, is there any homework for the committee that you would like us to come back with?
I think the
provide an
event,
idea or any, or do you want to, how do you want to?
short, no. However, what else? Because our next meeting might be right prior to, and
Gotcha.
at that point, there may not be. However, we will likely be reaching out to individual members, perhaps, for some guidance or some suggestions. But again, we want to hear from KTVU as to what their vision is for. Same as last year with Alameda, something different. How do they envision it? They're going to be coming out, and we'll be talking with them. They've not reached out yet. I anticipate they will, and when they do, we'll go from there.
I think they're going to sit on top of the, I think they're going to set up on top of the parking garage and let that right down.
I mean, they could. They actually did kick out the idea of right across from the plaza, in the like Morgan Territory space right there, perhaps setting up at the bend. And anyway, a lot of details to work through, but that's something Chris Tipton mentioned that they said. We don't know any of those details yet, but
Nothing too radical, like changing a parade route or anything crazy.
I don't think so. No, I think
Okay.
they're just trying to nestle in and get some shots.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. All right. Moving right along into item 3, the HDL company sales tax presentation with Mr. Nordhoff.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with the Economic Development Committee today. Let me make sure I'm sharing my screen first. That's so important. And hopefully you're able to see that. Okay.
Yeah, we can, Ken.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Beautiful vineyard.
All right. Yeah, trying to make something scenic there. So let me
Where is that in
Say-
Pleasant Hill?
Exactly.
I'm sorry? Oh, yeah. Well, that was a few years ago. That was a few years back in Pleasant Hill. So but here we are. There's buildings there today, I believe. So I've been asked by Zach to
There's the
kind of
building,
walk through some sales tax basics. So I'm gonna, this is a combination, a little bit of educating and sharing some information, both on a macro sense as it relates to sales tax, but also some specifics about Pleasant Hill's recent performance and outlook. So I'll be glad to answer questions. Let me just kind of zip through my presentation here, and I'll be ready to take whatever you want to ask. So just a little bit about our company. We've been around over 40 years, doing work really exclusively for local government and in the area or space of revenue generation and auditing and compliance. Sales tax is part of that. I'm on the team. I'm one of the 3 principals that actually works with Zach and Ethan and the rest of the staff on a quarterly basis as we go through your sales tax performance and our outlooks. Just a little bit of a reminder of what the tax rate is in the city. These can vary across different jurisdictions, but currently in Pleasant Hill, the tax rate is 9.25%. You can see that here at the bottom. The parts that pertain to you are highlighted in this kind of reddish color. So everyone, it's a local agency, a city, a county in California is getting a 1% part of the Bradley Burns tax rate. It's kind of your core general fund sales tax revenues. And then, as you know, the city approved Measure K several years ago, and that's generating an additional 0.5 cent rate. And I'm going to walk you through some of the data around both of those. There's a note here at the bottom that there are different tax rates in different jurisdictions. And there are some countywide measures included in this tax rate, including like CCTA's rate that's used for transportation related programs and purposes. So a little, this is kind of nuts and bolts stuff, but a little just what do we tax in California? We don't tax services and other things. We tax goods, tangible personal property. And under the laws, the use of the term sales tax is specifically referring to items that are held or considered a stock of goods that are held in some facility, a warehouse, a retail store, a fulfillment center in California. We have a system that the tax isn't and add-on taxes. It moves through the life cycle of manufacturing and distribution, et cetera. It's an end user tax paid once by the consumer. That's just the way the system is set up. Everybody that's subject to collecting these taxes is required to get a permit with the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration and file their returns accordingly. Bunch of stuff we don't tax. Tax law has been around since the 1930s. The tax rate way back then was 2.5%. So things have changed. As the economy really nationally, globally, and even locally has morphed, it hasn't really kept up with, the laws have not kept up with the way business has changed. So a lot of things that I like to talk about now, like streaming services, there's nothing in there that's subject to sales tax. You don't pay that when you're streaming something on Netflix or downloading any kind of software. We have a lot of food and other exemptions, utilities, and there's a really long list of this stuff. If you're nerdy about it, you can look up Publication 61 and see that not only have some of this been around for 90 years, but routinely at a legislative level, I see little spurts of trying to exempt additional things from sales tax collection. There's a companion piece of legislation that runs next to sales tax called use tax. It's really functionally all the same laws and rules with one distinguishing characteristic that's important, and it deals with use taxes are relating to out-of-state retailers and out-of-state inventory. And I'll show you how the distribution of that works here in a minute. But there are laws now in place that ensure that taxes aren't just getting collected from a business down the street, but also appropriately, particularly from a lot of online sellers, and that the money that is owed to Pleasant Hill is coming back to you appropriately. There's kind of two distributions of this 1% Bradley Burns tax rate. The primary part of it that you would see and your staff looks at when we do our quarterly reports is the sales tax piece. These are your restaurants and retailers, and car sellers that hold permits. Whatever they're selling, you're getting the full 1% of that tax rate. And that, as I say, it kind of rolls up and goes into your general fund, covers everything from, clothing stores to grocery stores, drug stores, et cetera. Then we have this indirect piece. This is the use tax piece that ends up in a pool. So the state, the CDTFA that manages all of the collection and distribution of these revenues, many years ago set up an administrative process, largely when e-commerce was almost non-existent, and decided everything that comes in from out of state, we're going to dump that in a pool. There'll be a pool for every county. So there's 58 in California, and each city within the county gets a share of the pool based upon how much revenue your taxpayers in Pleasant Hill generate compared to the quarterly totals that come from all the agencies in Contra Costa County. So you end up with a small piece of the revenue. You don't get the full 1%. You're actually getting something less than 10 cents on a dollar. This pool revenue really increased with some changes in the law, which I'll talk about here in a minute, back in 2019. So the kind of the third leg on the stool in the laws is transaction and use taxes. And this is what Measure K is. They primarily work the same with one distinguishing difference. Sales and use taxes are a function of what is called place of sale or point of sale revenue. So this means that you get sales taxes out of your auto dealers, some of your bigger companies. You've got like appliance stores that do a lot of business with local people, local residents, but also out of city residents. In transaction tax world, we don't pay as much attention to point of sale, where we talk more about destination or delivery. So things that get shipped into the city create Measure K revenues. This obviously, think about the delivery trucks you see zipping around your neighborhood every day. So it's Amazon and Temu and Shein and all these online players. They're driving Measure K revenues. You've also got some businesses in the city as I mentioned, like your appliance stores, that they're going to be asking when they make a sale, when they're shipping a dishwasher or a stove, where's that going? And if it's going to a Pleasant Hill resident, that's Measure K revenue. If it's being shipped out of the city, it is not. They're not obligated to do that. And I want to highlight one other difference here that you don't really see in the images, and that has to do with autos. So Measure K generates revenues for you out of auto sales based upon car buying habits of your residents. So it doesn't matter where the car gets bought. It's a function of if they're buying cars, regardless of whether that's locally or in Walnut Creek or out of county, every auto dealership is obligated to find out where that vehicle is getting registered. And if it is getting registered in Pleasant Hill, then it is generating Measure K revenues for the city. So this is just kind of another further explanation of, the goods online ordering kind of just follows where the goods go. So where stuff gets delivered is what generates Measure K revenue. And when the Supreme Court ruled on something called the Wayfair decision back in 2019, the state legislature approved, the governor signed AB 147, which basically mandated that all these out-of-state retailers that historically had not been collecting these transaction taxes were now obligated to do so. So it was a substantial increase, frankly, statewide in the amount of transaction tax revenues that came into local jurisdictions. And so now that's been in place and functioning, pretty effectively now for several years. Let me run through some payment and allocation stuff so you understand kind of the flow of things. So at the top here is just a listing of how taxpayers of different liability tiers are required to file. If you're a really small taxpayer, it's once a year. Most taxpayers are filing quarterly, and you might have some larger corporations or auto-related uses that get above that $17,000 liability. It required actually to pay monthly, so they file a couple of what are called advances or initial payments, and then they reconcile that when they file their month-end tax return. Returns get filed quarterly using a calendar. We're actually right now for our work in the middle of the fourth quarter. So that would be October to December sales. Tax returns would have been filed end of January. The state CDTFA would gather all that information, reconcile it, and make final payments to the city for that particular quarter. Our company would get data sometime around the first week or so of March, and then we're going through that, cleaning that up, preparing reports, building budgets, and then holding meetings with clients in April and May. So that's a lot of words to say. Often it feels like a lag, but there's several months, 4 to 5 months between the real-time activity of what's going on and the actual results that we can sit down and share with the city staff. Here's a good question that I love to answer like your city attorney. It depends. So I know attorneys use that terminology. And so we get a lot of questions about online sales and where does the money go? And unfortunately, I can't give you a simple answer because the systems that are in place today are complex. And they're anchored to understanding whether the money comes to you locally or whether it goes into this pool and gets divided up in a formula. Understanding when something is ordered, where is the place of sale, in state or out of state? Where are the goods at the time the order is taking place? And where is that product getting shipped from? And depending upon how you answer those first 3 columns, it dictates whether the money comes back locally, directly, to Pleasant Hill or whether it gets dumped in the pool. And even within some companies, the answer can be different. And Amazon is a good example of that because they have some in-state fulfillment centers and they also ship in products from out of state. So they end up with it's both. I want to point out to you, this has become more important, increasingly more important as communities and cities are looking to try to grow and expand their tax base, one of the things that has really blossomed in the last few years as e-commerce has risen substantially are logistics facilities, but they don't all generate sales tax. There's some very specific definitions in the language that's used and the analysis that's done by CDTFA. Fulfillment centers are tax generating facilities. Why is that? They've got goods on hand, they're stored there, they process the order, and they ship from that facility directly to a customer. There are a lot of these other types of warehouses that are listed here on the right. Excuse me, I didn't mean to draw through that. But they are, they look like the same kind of building from the outside, but they function as sorting facilities or mid-mile facilities, and they are not tax generating uses because they're holding goods briefly before they get sent to the actual customer. They're kind of a mid shipment type of facility or a place where just inventory gets sorted, not delivered to customers. A lot of the online things that we're all doing today, again, is just kind of building on the table I showed you a minute ago, is trying to understand when you order something, where might the revenue go? And, you know, it's very difficult. We don't see that in the tax returns. We see it in the resulting data from the taxpayers. But we know recently, we know if you order, if you walk into a store and you buy something at your local clothing store, your local Target store, whatever that is, that's direct revenue to the city. You get the full dollar Bradley Burns revenue. When you're online, maybe some of the allocation is out of state, it goes into pools. The way we capture data, we treat fulfillment centers rather than general consumer goods as a business related, as a land use, a business related category. And so there are pockets of the state, places like Tracy, Ontario, they have a lot of these fulfillment centers and they generate a fairly decent amount of revenue as an online sale. And then more recently, rather than a lot of companies building these big warehouse fulfillment center facilities, there's a lot of buy online, pick up in store. It's called BOPUS, if you love acronyms. And so that can actually be revenue to you. So if I order something online that's taxable from your local grocery store and I go pick it up there, that's actually generating sales tax revenues into Pleasant Hill. And you can see the lines here, the color might be hard, but the line that's starting on the top left there is kind of our recent trend looking at statewide data of what's been going on with the portion of online revenues that end up in brick and mortar. That's in decline. It probably doesn't surprise you. And the portion that is growing here, the blue line, is what's happening in terms of fulfillment centers and the like.
Ken, real quick, what was that acronym? You said BOPUS? What is it?
BOPUS, BOPIS. Buy online, pick up
in store.
Got it.
Buy online, pick up in store. Yeah, BOPUS. You're in government, you have to know enough acronyms in order to be proficient, right? So this is the way, this is just an image and a summary of the way we get statewide data every quarter, sales tax data.
Construction.
And we get about 98, 99% of all the data, and we put it in some groupings. So these are the 8 categories that we cluster the data in. You'll see this when we look at your reports in a minute. And we go down below that to refine not just the broader categories, but we segregate out, like in the case of autos, we have a category, a business type, we call them, for new autos versus used autos versus leasing versus RVs, because different agencies, different jurisdictions have different compositions of these kinds of businesses. And we do the same with restaurants. Quick service is segregated out. You might think of that as fast food. From casual dinings, those are kind of the Chipotle walk-in, wait staff, and then we go all the way up to casual and fine dining and even segregate out hotels. So it's just a way of doing some more refined analysis. This is the statewide trend when we look at those groups, and this is looking back over a 13-year period. 2020, you probably see here circled in a few of these graphs. You'll recall that was a year of COVID. Nobody really knew it was going to happen. They were sheltering in place. Things weren't open or very limited access. So there was a pretty decent amount of struggle in stores, general retail stores, restaurants, which is the lavender line here, and then some fairly good recovery. We've seen autos and general consumer goods really most impacted more recently, particularly by elevated interest rates brought about by inflation that particularly started to run rampant back in 2022. We've had a lot of business industry and pool-related revenues related to online sales and e-commerce growing, including all these new taxpayers, as I mentioned, that started back in 2019. The one steady that's been in here, even with the onset of new minimum wage increases last April under AB 1228, has been restaurants, hotels. And so that is actually performing at levels that are higher than they were pre-COVID. Now, keep in mind here, as the data moves along, of course, we see taxpayers come and go. There's new businesses, there's growth in the state. So that definitely influences these trend lines as well.
Hey, Ken?
Yeah.
Ken, can you go back to that slide, please?
Yes.
So we have in the room our CEO of Visit Pleasant Hill, who's been telling us for a couple of years now that revenue, coming out of COVID for hotels has been pretty flat. And this looks like there's a spike from 2020 of below 800,000 to 1.2 million. And so is that, so we're hearing that hotel revenue is flat. So is that really restaurants that are fueling that, you think? Just people going back into restaurants?
This is predominantly, if I was to strip out all the categories, it's predominantly restaurants.
Okay.
To a lesser extent, food delivery, catering companies and hotels. And I would agree, hotel revenues have been flat or down in the last couple of years, depending
They
upon
don't?
The hotel
what
room.
pocket of the state you're in. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Ken, what were you saying?
The hotel rooms don't collect sales tax
Hotels
just
collect
because-
sales tax on their
in
food
their
and
restaurant
drink.
operations. So.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. That's a
But
different.
it would still seem related though, because the restaurants are
okay.
doing well.
Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
the hotel room is doing
Thank you.
well. Yeah.
That makes sense. Andre had a question too, Ken.
Yeah, while we're on this slide, thanks again, Andre here. I have a question about the fuel and service stations and autos and transportation. So autos and transportation, is that just vehicle sales or would that also include vehicle service and parts?
There's no tax on service, but it does
know.
include supplies, parts, and all kinds of transportation sales, including RVs, boats, motorcycles. Fuel on service stations is really primarily going to be gas stations, but there are some commercial petroleum product sellers and jet fuel at airports that are in those fuel and service station numbers.
Okay, so the autos and
Primarily gas
transportation,
stations.
so autos and transportations includes like auto repair businesses, tire shops, like
Uh-huh.
Big O Tires, like
Yes,
Napa Auto Parts, Auto Zones.
correct.
All
Yes.
right, thank you. Thanks for
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
This is a snapshot of we publish a couple of documents every quarter for the benefit of our clients. One of them is this statewide California forecast. It's sales tax centric. It's got some other economic drivers in there. This is just a picture of part of the recent edition. The idea here is to try to give a flavor and an understanding looking ahead of where we think the sales tax revenues are going. And we do that with an overall number up here. And this will be the second year in a row where revenues are going to be down. But then we also break it down by these 8 groups and try to drill down a little bit and talk more specifically about trends in auto sales or general consumer spending. The overview at the top is intended to give our 1 paragraph summation in real time today, where we live in a period of uncertainty. That's kind of the key word there. And you know this well because of everything going on related to tariffs and interest rates. The feds may or may not adjust, and consumer confidence, and the list goes on. So this is a public document. We share this with our clients with the intent of trying to just elevate your understanding and outlook through our lens. Now I'm going to get into some of your numbers just to help you understand what your tax base looks like. And so this is a pie chart breaking down those 8 groups for the last calendar year. This is the last 4 quarters or full year's worth of data that we have. You have a fairly large, about a third of your sales tax base comes from general consumer goods. So these are clothing stores, shoe stores, specialty stores, florists, bike shops, and even some of the bigger box stuff. It's all in there. What is next in line is your pools, your share of the pool, and that is pretty common these days for a lot of communities. So as more and more consumer spending has been shifting to online, you would find that the pools revenue is a fairly substantial part of your overall tax base. This pie wedge 20 years ago would have been largely non-existent. That's because these taxpayers are not in Pleasant Hill. This is all stuff that's getting ordered online and shipped in. And then you can see the remaining groupings and the distribution of that have a fairly decent concentration of restaurants, of course, in the city. This is how revenues looked for that same period of time. These are in descending order, meaning the largest dollar group, as I mentioned, general consumer goods. So the last calendar year, the city generated roughly about $10.9 million in sales tax revenues. And that was down from where it was in calendar year 23, about 2%, roughly $200,000. Some of that are things that, as we've talked about a little bit, things like fuel prices have been down substantially. They were down substantially the last 6 months of 2024 compared to 2023. So your decline is really kind of in line with what's happened everywhere else. You've had some turnover in your general consumer goods group, some loss of business. Zach was talking about some spaces that are trying to get filled. And this is an area when the economy is uncertain. I find that there's more discretionary spending, which means consumers will pull back or shop differently. And that's probably contributed to some of that decline. If you're wondering about the count, these are the number of permits that are held within each of these categories by merchants within Pleasant Hill. And so the one area that remains strong, and it's primarily a few restaurants, casual dining, fast casual venues. And again, you've even seen some openings of that over the last year. Those revenues grew 7%. There are some audit corrections in here that unfortunately over time have kind of shifted around and hurt the pool allocation in this most recent year. So that comes up. Again, it's kind of beyond your control.
Service stations.
Measure K, it's going to look a little different. It's going to be bigger general consumer goods because this isn't just accounting for those taxpayers that are in the city. This is loading in all the e-commerce people, the eBays, the Amazons, the Etsy's. They all get loaded up here in general consumer goods. Your restaurant number is fairly consistent, as are the other high wedges here. Note that the pool doesn't exist. There's no pool in a transaction tax world because everything that is either consumed by somebody walking in or delivered into the city or a car that's registered is generating Measure K revenues for you. This will look different. So notice, first of all, there's like a 10-fold increase in the count, the number of taxpayers that get into this database. Many of them are one-time or very small. They're not key contributors, but they're required by law to collect and remit the tax. And so that's reflected here. General consumer goods, again, being very predominant. not down as dramatically as we saw in sales tax because the online sales were actually good. And so those numbers helped mitigate some of the brick and mortar loss out of general consumer goods this last year. Note also, you benefited from more business related merchandise. This could be electrical equipment, medical equipment or supplies, industrial products. Those numbers were up last year for you, and they could tend to be more cyclical, but that was good in 2024. And of course, your restaurants, just like sales tax, were holding up very well. So one of the things we can do in the data is, and we worked with the staff to do this, is say, hey, we can run some comparable numbers to look at, well, how are you doing compared to your neighbors? So the city can select 6 other, in this typical report, select 6 other cities or jurisdictions. And this is another run back looking at 13 years, seeing how your per capita numbers trend. So this is understanding your Bradley Burns sales tax data, looking at that and comparing it to populations. You can see the trend lines for various jurisdictions. Walnut Creek, I would say, having a lot more retail with Broadway Plaza, some higher concentration of that, and certainly more autos. Saw a more dramatic decline in the COVID year than yourselves and some of the neighbors, and has rebounded in some different ways. But you can see that your trend line here is moving up. It's very close to what's happening in Concord, and you outpace or do better in terms of per capita measurement than some of the smaller agencies here on the graph.
Yeah, I mean, Martinez and Pleasant Hills counts are almost exactly the same. I mean, it's
Martinez. Martinez is down.
I know, that's what I'm saying, though. The counts are very similar, but look at the difference between Pleasant Hill and Martinez.
Well, yeah, think about like your largest used car sales tax generator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't have one of those in Martinez.
No?
No.
But they have Home Depot, though. I mean, they have
Walmart.
They have a Walmart
You do
there.
have-
That's
Correct. There's some trade-offs. But you
Yeah,
have.
no, but I'm just saying, it's just interesting. I would thought that Martinez would be a little closer to us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Martinez is also, yeah, it's also kind of interesting because of their geography and their city limits. Like there's some of the activity that generates a decent amount of money is actually in a county as it relates to like the refineries and stuff. That not all of that is in city limits. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
This is our statewide outlook. So we're doing this every quarter, trying to evaluate where things been and where are they going. So I'm just going to wind the clock back a little. And sales tax was chugging along pre-COVID. Nobody really knew what the effect was, but the decline, which is really about a 4-month impact in 1920 fiscal year, was only a 2.4% loss. Then we get to stimulus money and people being tired of being cooped up and couldn't travel, and people went wild, and they were spending money pretty aggressively in fiscal years 21 and 22. Lots of car buying way over MSRP. Inflation is up. And so that, like most things that overheat, they course correct. So numbers fell down, growth fell down in fiscal year 23, losses last year, losses expected this year, and a nominal increase in fiscal year 26. And one way to look at the way I look at data is to understand when you add together these 3 years right here, the growth in fiscal year 25-26 in real dollars will not make up for the declines in fiscal years 24 and 25. So in order to see some real positivity, you can kind of see that on the graph here, but you don't really see any real improvement, real measurable improvement until you get out to fiscal year 27. And then we're back into a pattern of what has been kind of a traditional growth.
Hey, Ken, really quickly.
Yeah.
Hey, Ken, I got a quick question for you. So on the numbers for 24, 25, 25, 26 up there, are you baking in transfer and tariffs into that, or is that not part of the equation?
No, that's all in there. That, all of that's in there. And so, but it's not, no one can accurately predict what this radical implementation of tariffs is going to look like.
So that's not in there. Okay.
I mean, it's in there. It's just that it's the best we could do at the time. We put this
I
together
understand.
in second week of March.
Yeah,
So
point in time.
might it look
Point in time,
different
yeah.
when we do it again in June? Yeah, but I don't think it'll
Yeah.
look materially different because people still have to spend. So, in many cases, on a lot of things, and so they will choose differently. They will be more selective. They'll be paying attention to what retailers are doing. I'm reading things like, car
Yeah.
buying numbers in the first quarter of 25 are probably going to look pretty good because everybody was trying to get out in front of the tariffs. And so that's pulling sales forward. So it's, it's in there. That's a lot of words for me, but it's in there. So. Once a year, another report we like to do, and we've just we do this at this time of the year. We like to roll out and look at an individual jurisdiction's per capita performance by these business types or retail categories here on the left, and help you understand the staff. Particularly, Zach loves this stuff. He eats this stuff up. So it's understanding where you have a higher concentration of per capita surpluses. What does that mean? That means your gas stations, your dining establishments are drawing in people from outside the city to support those businesses. And you want that. That's part of the vitality of your city and the vitality of your sales tax base. And you can see these non-residential gains up here in the green. They're in your stores, like I said, and those are good. The reds at the bottom would suggest that there is room or capacity to think about where it's possible. Some room where residents are fulfilling some of their needs. Oh, that says Benicia. My apologies. That should say Pleasant Hill right there. I'm sorry. But they're going outside the city to fulfill some of those needs. So they don't get all their big box discount department store stuff. They're going to Costco's and Concord and some other places. And so these are, or maybe some lumber stuff over there at Dolan's next door, that kind of thing. So this is just a tool. And then we complement this with providing the staff a listing of retailers and restaurants and stores that are expanding in California, hopefully to help fulfill some of the information that Zach was sharing earlier about leasing up restaurants and some of these other spaces.
Ken, before you go to the next slide, just because you go back a second, one of the things that's real interesting is we are way outperforming in casual dining, but then fine dining is where we have some leakage. So within the category of restaurants, there are different subcategories.
Yeah. So think of fine dining in a general sense. It's hard to standardize this all over the state, but I would say if you're paying $50 a head per meal or more, that's a fine dining restaurant. And so there aren't a lot of those. I mean, it's, there's far more casual dining restaurants.
That's everywhere.
What's that?
I would argue, Ken, that there's a lot more fine dining than there was 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, there's probably a lot more of it, but we haven't shifted the restaurants from one category to the next or reset the threshold. So I'm kind of giving you a number based on the way it was established long ago.
Okay.
And I would still argue, even if you go to BJ's Brew House or, Olive Garden and spend $50 a head, which is not inconceivable. I don't know if people would associate that as fine dining. So anyways, but
fine indigestion.
we may have to relook at this at some point a little bit, but a lot of the casual stuff are chains for sure, so this is my colleague, Susie, was working with the staff this quarter. This is the budget she put together based on our most recent data. And so the total line here is the sales tax projections, which look to be up about 0.6% this year. which I can tell you is better than some other places. And then revenues increasing slightly, looking ahead into the coming fiscal year of 26 and beyond that into 27, on the order of 2.5% to 3%. Some of that is you have added in and built in some new businesses along the way. You can see the current year is, it's pretty tough when you look at some of these categories. And then we have Measure K down here at the bottom, which roughly generates about 50% of what's listed up here is the total. And so, again, you have more taxpayers there, so they don't, Measure K and sales tax don't always necessarily move right in tandem in real time. You could see that from the prior year and this current year. We forecasted out to try to align that or match that up a little better. But these are the numbers that have been provided to staff. I'm sure, you're deeply in the middle of your budget season and budget process with the city council. So this is our best estimate at the time, and hopefully that's influential and instructive to what the city will use in terms of adopting your revenues for next year. So that is what I had to share with the committee this evening, and I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Any other questions? I'm gonna have some like later today. I know I'm just gonna think something's gonna pop in my head, but thank you, Ken. Really appreciate all this. Is a really good information, and I'd almost like it if you could come back like once a year just to like refresh us on all this stuff. I like digging into this, so thank you.
Yeah, we're certainly willing and able to do that. So I would leave that at your discretion and working with the staff, whatever you want to do. So sure. Yeah,
That's great. No, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Thanks, Ken.
You're welcome.
Right, so we'll move on to item 4, and just kind of keep in mind for Patricia and Mr. Carlson, I want to really try to get you guys out of here by 5:30. So if you just as you're going along, I'm not rushing anybody, but just want to be sensitive to everyone's time.
I gotta be out of 5:30 too.
Yeah, and he's good at 5:30. So I don't really want to have to use the gavel.
Yeah, you do.
Actually, I kind of do.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
That's why we got you a phone one.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Yes, go.
Yeah, go for it, Trish.
So,
I called you Patricia just to start out, make it formal.
that works.
Okay.
That works. It's my name.
Yeah,
So
guys,
it's all good.
we
It's all good. So, last time we met, I was asked to give a little update on kind of a little history, what we do, who we are, so everyone can gain a better understanding. This time I was asked to share our budget, so we're getting really personal now. Just kidding. It's public knowledge. So just to, again, help you understand, I think this is just one more level of helping everyone understand what do we do? As you're reminded, we collect 4% tourism improvement district monies from the hotels. They collect that from their guests that stay. So every guest that stays they pay $100, they pay 4% of that. And that money goes to the city, and then they send that to us. And this is our budget approved by the board, just approved. Our fiscal year is a little bit weird, but it's matches with our renewal cycle. So each, the tourism improvement district is 5 for now. I mean, it doesn't have to be 5-year increments, but that's what it's been in the past, the first 5 years, and then it got renewed for another 5 years. So when we started with the new 5 years, the city requested that we match our fiscal year. So anyway, that's what this budget obviously was just approved, being that it started in April. So I'll just kind of, it's a lot of detail. I don't know that it's behooving of your time or mine to go over every line, but I think kind of some highlights of what our general categories are that we spend. Although I did leave like detail in there. So as we're kind of scrolling down, if something pops up that you're like, wait, what is that? By all means, do that. And then I do have a few slides just to kind of talk about generally, you know, what our goals are with this budget. So as you can see, just at the very top, you know, that's probably the favorite number there, right? The hotel assessment, like what's the forecast of how much we're gonna collect from our hotels this year? And that's the forecast there. Carryover is money that has been carried over from when we took over as Visit Pleasant Hill. After the chamber had the first 5 years, there was carryover money that hadn't been spent. COVID, clearly we didn't keep, you know, there was money collected up until that point and still money collected during COVID, but there wasn't a lot being done during that time. So there was carryover that the board said, and the hotels were saying to, look, spend that money. We don't need a bunch of money sitting in a bank account somewhere, not marketing, you know, us. So that's money that has been spent down over the years. Okay. So that number, because our books were not closed and we had to get this approved before April 1st, is a guesstimate. It's going to be a little bit more than that. So what happens then is I go back to the board and I say, hey, books are closed as of March 31st. You know, the actual carryover number after all of our, you know, everything was paid this year is probably going to be around 175, maybe 180, something like that. Then I go back to the board and I say, here's what I'd like to do with that additional money. And we just make a quick adjustment to the budget. So total income that we have to work with then when we were making this budget was 1,165,000. 17,000 of that goes, it's 2% of that number goes to the city for collections. So they manage all the collections from the hotels. Me or my team doesn't have anything to do with that. We literally get a check from the city. So that's built into the management district plan that the city would collect 2%. So there's really two kinds of expenses. There's administrative and there's sales and marketing. Pretty, I'm not gonna say simple, but simple as in there's only two categories of spending. So under the administrative expenses, you can kind of see, and we're also built into the management district plan that only 18% of the monies that we collect from the assessment can be spent on administrative. So when I'm doing the budget, it's very important that, you know, we get that number right. We do have some flexibility, but that's always the goal, is to get it to 18%. So normal stuff, you know, insurance, workers' comp, accounting, we get an annual audit every year, an IT consultant, legal consultant, they help us write our annual report every year. And then the salary. So we have 2 employees currently. We've had 3 in the past. We currently do not have that third one. We're going to continue with just 2 of us this year. Administratively, I'm the CEO. So as you can see there, it splits 70% because 70% of my job is administrative. About 30% is sales and marketing. We won't go in, yeah, that can be, you know, it's really up to us. I likely will be doing a little bit more sales and marketing this year, but we left it that way. Cause that's, I think, you know, what's working. I do spend a good amount of time on administrative. So then everything below that, as you can see, is split out. So 70% of the payroll taxes for my salary. So everything is 70%. As we get down to the sales and marketing part, you'll see my vice president of sales and marketing, and then 30% of mine is added into all those columns. So does that make sense? Probably too much information that you don't really want to know. But anyway, then telephone and internet, storage, rent. We do not have an office. We work remotely, but we do have a storage unit that has, you know, our merchandise, our, you know, pop-up tents, all of our equipment, our marketing collateral, you know, all of that good stuff is in storage. And then a contingency, which we did not budget for contingency this year because we didn't have. And we haven't used it in the past. We've been, luckily, we've been able to spend within our 18% there. Sales and marketing, that's where most of our expenses are, obviously, that's what we do, we don't wanna spend more than 18%, because the whole point of this is doing some marketing, right? So, you can see, we start with, memberships, we're memberships of different associations, travel associations, that type of thing, we do an economic impact report, every year, that we do present to city council, so those are memberships. We've got another category of office expense, which is really just postage and, office expense, pretty basic. And then sales and marketing team, salaries and benefits. So that's the part where I told you, we split. So like this salary split, it's the sales and marketing as well as 30%, my split there. And that's the VP of sales and marketing salary. Payroll taxes, payroll service fees, I just, split half and half because there's 2 employees, so the fees, I didn't match that up, and then benefits, bonus, IRA, that type of thing are also under the salaries and benefits. Another category, collateral and print, so as you guys probably have all seen our visitor guide, we do it for 2 years because it's obviously costly, as you can see. So we are doing a new one this year, a copywriter to make sure we've got, everything correct in there, brochure print, so printing it out, marketing collateral, other things that we might, use in print. Merchandise, that's anything that you see with our name on it, t-shirts, whatever the case, and we do use those for, trade shows that we go to and things like that. Website, obviously you have to pay to have a website. We are redoing our website this year. I don't think that's under that website. Yeah, that's just hosting and so forth. Sales and marketing, training and development. So those are, some areas for us to make sure we're on top of our game with this industry. And next, professional fees. So website redesign, that's where we have the agency. We have had this website for quite some time and it's time to get it updated. It's not updated with any of the new AI functions. So those are things that we are adding into our, our revamped website. Again, a copywriter to make sure we've got everything correct on there, no misspellings or anything like that. Marketing agency, including social media. We are a team of 2, so it's typical in our industry that you hire a marketing agency to help you with all the, all that, getting everything out there. Creative design agency, that would help, that would be the person that would help us design our, marketing collateral, anything that we need creative. If I'm gonna come up with a professional flyer, we may use a creative agency for that. Local social media support, that's somebody local on the ground, running around, getting content, making sure they're at all the events. Helping us with social media posts, website, software, tools and integration. That's a lot of things that'll be used on the website. Yes.
On the marketing agency, social media is also include like Google Ads and things like that to drive traffic to your site.
They'll be helping us with all of that, yeah.
Okay, so that's all
They
encompassing
monitor
within
all
that
that.
budget.
It's probably not for, it doesn't include the cost of the ad.
No. But they're the agency that comes up with all the, they're looking at this, all the, the information out there and helping us put the plan together. Partnerships and sponsorships, Live Nation, community sponsorships, those are the things that we do within the community, whether it be, sponsors, the Sponsors by the Lake, work with Rec and Park, work with the Chamber, all of those type of things. Trip.com, Tour Amigo, Hopper, some of those things are all, kind of hotel related, so we can make sure that we're on sites and can get our hotels the best exposure. Campaigns, these are campaigns that we might run, let's say co-campaigns. Oftentimes we will jump on with San Francisco Travel, And we also partner with Visit California on some of their campaigns. So some of these things, co-campaigns would be ones where we partner with our other local DMOs. So we work with Visit Concord, Visit Walnut Creek, and Visit Tri Valley. And if we do it as a Mount Diablo region, which we've kind of named ourselves that, and so when we do an ad, we might have 4 little, ads in there, but we can then afford it because, we're highlighting the region instead of doing it on our own. Sometimes we can't afford to do, to jump on with our most successful San Francisco travel campaign was going to be $25,000. That's a lot for us. And so we started getting together with our other local DMOs and splitting that cost. And then we do standalone campaigns. So that's mainly what we do with Visit California, making sure that we can be in their guide or that we can be on their website and do some different campaigns with them. Digital marketing, activation, social media, influencer, all of those things that is there.
Guys, stop you on that.
Travel guides. Yes.
Influencers. So what how would you, I would love to hear an example of a local, do you have like a local influencer?
We haven't used them yet. This is new.
Oh,
This is new. We haven't done influencers so much in the past. But travel influencers, people that have, big audiences that travel to different places. So that's what you would use, whether, there's a lot of food influencers, as you know. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen
Sure,
those.
sure.
That could be, it's not all, it's travel. It's not necessarily hotel related so it'd be anybody that could come to Pleasant Hill and give,
In our scenario, would it be regional travel influencers?
Not necessarily.
No, okay.
Not necessarily nationwide, obviously. The bigger their audience, the more expensive they're gonna be. So it kind of depends, we're
Right.
gonna have
I
to
guess-
try something.
Yeah, or I guess, do you do like where you pool it with other, like, for example, like someone talks about like the East Bay or something like that.
Mhm.
Is there any kind of opportunity to like pool it
Absolutely.
with like Lafayette, Concord, Walnut Creek,
Absolutely.
guys all kind of
Yeah.
going on something together?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, just like that Mount Diablo region that we
Yeah.
we
it
formed.
just would seem weird, some national influencer go, Pleasant Hill, it just doesn't, that doesn't seem realistic. I would just think, but a regional influencer,
Mhm.
a regional type of influence. I would think.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And correct me if-
We're having another meeting. We're an East Bay group, we're meeting with Visit Oakland, Visit Berkeley, all the visits basically on this side of the bay. We really want to get together and discuss, what are we doing to make sure the East Bay gets some of these big events that are coming up? And I know you brought that up
Yeah.
before, in the past. So we have actually a meeting tomorrow. Talk to Visit Oakland, at our last conference that I saw him at, and very interested in seeing how we can kind of partner and really play off of what they might get to.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Trip.com and Touramigo, they give us more of an international footprint, yes?
Oh, yeah. Mhm. Oh, yeah, those are, for hotels, absolutely.
Muy bien.
And then travel and entertainment, there's, expenses for when we go to trade shows and meals and all of that. Entertainment meals would be, let's say we're hosting, some meeting planners, it would be maybe a lunch for them, or it could be a family trip where we're bringing in, people that we want to showcase Pleasant Hill for them. So that would be their entertainment. Or even when you go to trade shows too, you might be meeting with planners and it's like, hey, you got some people that maybe have a little bit more interest than that quick appointment that you had. You say, hey, I'm going to host a dinner for these 3 meeting planners and take them out. So that's a budget to be able to do that. Trade show.
Were you talking like 5 shows a year, 10 shows a year?
No, about 12.
12 shows.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, trade show, we did, cut back this year just because it's a building year with our website and everything. So we did cut back a little bit. We're probably more like 10 this year. And then conferences, again, that's, educational, really kind of keeping us on trend and making sure we know what's going on. And then technology and tools. Ripe is our booking engine that we use. So if you go to our website, that's where you can book a hotel room. It's all connected with the hotels. some AI functionality that, you know, we'll be adding there. And then sales and marketing contingency, that's where we did put a little bit of money in there, because every once in a while a campaign or something will pop up that we're like, whoa, we didn't know about that. So we do like to have a little money in there in case there's some marketing or sales opportunity that popped up that we did not know about, but we want to take advantage because we feel like it would be advantageous. So total expenses, you know, matches with the top. So questions? And I think I'll forego the other slides. I mean, I think just for the essence of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
They were just a recap.
Any
So,
questions for?
yeah. Questions?
No, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming in today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Finally, the last, certainly not least.
Certainly least.
All right, you said it, not me. We had Mr. Carlson with the chamber update.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. So we had a really good event with the Casino Night, Casino Royale, that we partnered with the Community Foundation. Numbers are still coming in, so we don't have those. I'm waiting for those to come from the foundation because they did the money collection.
We look forward to that next week.
Yes, yeah. It was good. We almost hit our goal number of 100 folks. We had 82, which was pretty good. Looking at our last numbers for our last couple of events and hitting our goals, so we're happy about that. Coming up tomorrow, we have our mixer at Diablo Valley College. So if anyone who can be there and wants to be there should be there. It'll be fun. And I also found out
Everybody who's anybody's gonna be there.
anybody who's everybody. And we have a contingent of international students from France, so we'll also be there this time as well. So that will be interessante. So that is going to be at 5:00 tomorrow at DVC in the Norseman restaurant. Yeah, I literally have not walked on campus since I was
I'll be
20.
there.
Is that where we were for the Cal City thing?
Yeah, I think as you go
It's
up. to the right.
upstairs
Yeah.
from their cafeteria.
Yeah.
5 p.m.?
5 p.m.
Derby Square.
Come on. Next Tuesday. Yes, it's Tuesday. Yes.
The 13th.
The 13th, we have our Governmental Affairs Committee meeting. This month, we will have a presenter from the National U.S. Chamber of Commerce. What's his name?
Jennings.
Jennings.
He's flying in. He'll be here in
Yeah.
person.
So he is going to give us the state of the economy and business atmosphere and environment for the nation.
Wow.
I get emails from them all the time from the National Chamber, and it hasn't been pleasant the last couple of messages that have come through. It's been kind of dark, so it's going to be interesting to see what he has to say.
Can you put on your mailing list?
That's also open to everyone here as well to come. So please, if you are interested, join us at the large community room down here at the lake, City Hall, and that is at 4:30. And then, certainly not least, we have Art, Wine, and Music, which is the 17th and 18th of this month. The 19th will be a fantastic day for me. But we're super excited. We have a full lineup of bands. We have a whole bunch of breweries that are going to be pouring in the beer garden and throughout the street beers. I'm super excited this year, and you're going to see some information go out on the socials if it hasn't gone out already. But we are actually doing a cider this year, and the brewer, whoever the cider maker is, I'm not sure what we call a cider maker, but is actually a Pleasant Hill resident, and their business is based in Oakland, and so I'm really excited to have her here. Her name is Bex, and so we'll have her products here. And I did actually get some of the product over the weekend and tried it. It was really good, so super. It's gonna be good. And
Can we
then
get her to move the business here?
if we have a manufacturing place where we can probably bottle and do everything, maybe.
I know a guy who can. work
I
on
know.
that.
We all know a few people.
Yeah.
So super excited about that.
I know some planners
planners
that can.
Right. Well, I'm hoping to talk to her before the actual event. And I'll ask her what it looks like to move here.
Mhm.
She moved to Pleasant Hill, so move everything to
I
Pleasant
would
Hill.
love to cut your commute
Oh,
Yes.
who wants to go through a tunnel to make cider?
I know, right?
Okay.
That's why I make it in my garage.
There you go.
But anyhow, and then the last thing that we have with partnership with Visit Pleasant Hill is we're bringing back the Champagne tent this year. And for those of you who have seen Emily in Paris and are a fan of it like I am, and if you just fully profiled myself, but
Too late.
too late. But she does a thing. Part of the show is about a advertising company she works with, and they have a brand of champagne that's supposed to be really awful. That's good for parties and to do the shake and sprays of the bottles, and it's called Champère. Well, I have 3 cases of it because JCB actually is the bottler of it, and it actually is good. So we actually are gonna have a whole thing about Emily in Paris here, and we have stuff on repeat. It's gonna be cute.
So
I'm
you and
super
7 people
excited.
are gonna be excited about this?
Stop it. So I'm excited to have it here. What is really nice about this is that we also have our band that's opening up is a French band, Duo Gajo. They're a French Parisian street style band. They do a lot of jazz music. They're going to be opening it up. So we're going to do some hybrid advertising on the social medias and tag the Alliance Française Academies and some of the businesses that are on the East Bay that are French focused to see if we can maybe help pull some of that out here too, because we are expecting, as we did last year, our numbers to be about 45,000.
Wow.
So over the 2 days, not in one day, 2 days. So yeah,
Selling
so
berets? What? Anyone selling berets?
that's Ghost. No. Nobody actually
I'm having
wears them.
so much fun with this. I look
But
forward to
no,
it.
so it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a nice weekend. It starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. We have the Floor Shakers for the Saturday night concert. I'm super excited about Sunday. I mean, the end of the day is always great for us because it's over. But we're gonna close the evening out on Sunday with the Sun Kings, which is a Beatles tribute band. So I'm super excited about that. Been trying to get them for several years now, so we got that. So come on down.
What time does Sun Kings go on?
3:30?
3-ish?
3:30, not
Okay.
4:30. I know that.
I wish I
For
could be
sure.
there. I really wish I could be there, but we don't have enough pool space in Northern California, so I have to go yet to Southern California yet for water polo.
Well, I don't know what to tell you.
I wanna add,
Any questions? Other than Derek getting me on the GAC mailing list, please.
and another GAC meeting, since we would probably will not meet before the next the
Yes.
June meeting.
Oh, yes.
Is June 10th, and that will be the Cal Chamber with the job creator and job killer bills. So you are all welcome for that. So then we don't meet in July and August, so to finish out, our next 2 meetings are the US and then Cal Chamber.
Okay.
We wanna fill the room.
Make sure I'm on that mailing list too.
No.
You know,
I took you off all of them.
No, seriously, I don't get any GAC stuff. I get
Oh, really?
chamber stuff, but I don't get any GAC stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, make
You're
sure. Por favor. Any other questions for the good of the order? Thank you all for being here today. Yeah, tons of good information. I even took lots of notes, and I've learned that berets are gauche. So, thank you, everybody. Meeting is adjourned at 5:27. Prince wrote a song